What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Good to see everyone. I don't have my tablet in front of me, so I have to go to the channel and mute it. That's what I'll do. So right here, channel, make it smaller so I can see the comments. What's going on, Kevin? Jerry, what's going on? Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Jamil, what's going on? Welcome back to Highway Linux. What episode are we on?
94.
94. Do 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 do. Okay, so yeah, lights are free. So one of the things we're gonna, as you see, I got my red hat. I don't have my shirt on. I got my Linux Money shirt on, but I got my red hat. A red hat. Da, da, da. I was looking for my. Oh, well, we got a whole bunch of stuff. Red hat. We're gonna talk about red hat tonight, and probably next week and the week after for the month of January or February, in different capacities, in different forms. All right. So last week I talked about Linux, setting up getting your subscription, so forth and so on, and going from there. But this week we're going to talk about the next steps. Next steps are understanding how to utilize Linux in an automated fashion. And when I say automated fashion, I'm really talking about Ansible. So I'm not going to do a deep dive into Ansible. I am going to talk about it, but first things first. I want to talk about this right here. So this is from 7 years ago. It's probably one of the very first shows that I did. And you all can go dive off into the show. It's an oldie but goodie. It is Linux administration with special guest Tamika Reed and Dion, and it's from Information Technology. He's out of Orlando. So you can check that out. So here it is on the screen right here. Linux administration with special guest Tamika Reed, so forth. And there's been some comments left on this. Some of you have actually came from this channel over to here. So shout out to you who have stayed around. I don't know whatever happened to Sergio. Sergio used to be around. I don't know where Sergio is at. But you can see we've been around for quite some time now. Ernest, I don't know what happened to Ernest. Ernest used to come around. Don't see Ernest no more. It's just some people that had came from these shows, some other shows and stuff that stumbled upon us and came over and whatnot. This really probably highlights more of my journey to starting out and so forth. And going from there. So I one day I'll do a review of some of the older shows that I've done over time. I just punch in my name and I'm like, what have I done? So catalog of places I hate the fact that they stretched out our shirts like this. I'm like, they make us look, I like, this is awful.
They didn't stretch them out. They put a logo on top of them. So you
Like
put our name in there, and it looks like we have like square boobs.
square boobs. like,
Uh,
it's horrible.
It is terrible.
It's terrible. Uh
Like wide in the
yeah.
worst way.
Yeah. This, I mean, just on and on, just things that places we spoke at, names have come up, encouragement of others, like people who we ran into. Just, you know, this is just where we are, where we're at, right? Right. So check out some of the old content and whatnot. You can at me at it. It's all good. That's bigger pockets. All right. So, um, D, how was your week?
It's been good.
Cool.
It's been good. I mean, from Friday, you mean my weekend?
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a good weekend. I have a friend in town. She's celebrating her birthday.
You
From Cali. So you've been Cali girl down this weekend.
oh, talking kind of low. I had to turn you up.
Oh, because I had turned you down a little bit in my ear. So
Don't turn me down. Turn me up.
I had to turn you down in my ear.
Don't turn me down. Turn me up.
So yeah, it's been a good weekend. It's still my weekend is still going.
Only weekend is I worked, and I will work tonight and tomorrow and the
We
rest
all
of the week.
work, Tamika.
No, you was off today.
No, I wasn't. I was not feeling well today. I was under the weather today.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I was under the weather.
Mm,
I know, right?
okay. Jenny the Jasmine's going on. No estate, no date. How you doing, Jasmine? All right. So, um, last week I talked about Red Hat, um, and Red Hat certifications. A lot of people, had this thing like, can I go get Linux Plus? You can go get whatever Linux cert that you feel that your heart's desire. I just know most people, most companies recognize the Red Hat cert before they recognize the other certs. That's just my opinion. They could be very different other places, but that's just my opinion. All right. So on the certification side, and I went over this, we talked about let me go here. I should do all certifications. Um so there's the RECSA, right? That's your starter cert. That's your get it girl cert. That's the one where you start out. The next one up is the RHCE. And the RHCE used to be broken up with beginning Linux and then advanced Linux, but they pulled out that and made Ansible the RECE. And then after that, you roll into what I think one of the more popular ones are the Red Hat OpenShift, right? Now, you can skip the Red Hat OpenShift and go to the CKA exam and do the CKA exam, which will be generic Kubernetes, and then come back to uh, the OpenShift and learn and get your cert in OpenShift. Um, I personally think you probably need to do some fundamentals work. But I think if you know how to read and you know how to get on the command line and you know how to apply, I think it becomes very easy. That's just me. So my thought process is. So let's look at the Ansible, the Red Hat certified engineer certification. And then before I start Well, I'll probably start diving into it and then I'll come back out and we'll talk about jobs. So, Red Hat certified engineer. Okay, let's download that. Sure. I don't know where that went, but okay. I may be on my other thing, so that's why it's doing that today. So let me go here. But I'll go to my other. I'm in another link, so that's probably why. Let's do infograph and data sheet. Mm-mm-mm. But I'm not getting what I want. But that's okay. Because I don't want all these. I may have to log out and log back in. I'm on a different link, but that's okay. We'll get it. So with Ansible, you want to install, there's two things. There's Ansible Core, and then there's Ansible Platform, and then the free version of that is AWX. AWX with Ansible. Here, I'll pull this over there so you can see that. Now, and if you want to learn Ansible Platform, you can use this to learn Ansible Platform and understand the terms when I talk about them, like GitOps and the terms about DevSecOps, right? Development, security, operations, the happy marriage of those two. And why do you want to use that, right? So here we go, DevSecOps. You use this in, if you are a site reliability engineer or platform engineer, you're going to use Ansible as well too. But let's look at the images. It's fine. So here, when we're talking about DevSecOps here, development, you're going to build code, build, test. You got to plan, you got to release, you got to deploy, you got to operate, you got to monitor. All this is DevSecOps, right? You can have security testing in there. You can have code testing inside of here for testing the code security wise. You could be when you release, you could have a test, a security test. You could have a deployment. You could be in the deployment phase. You could be doing security as well too. So and monitoring, like all the way around. Like the goal is to have security shifting left throughout the whole process. How does Ansible help with that? Well, Ansible helps with, hey, I want to say I want to change. I want to change the directory permissions on 15 servers, and I changed the. But I don't want to log into all those 15 servers in order to do that. I want to automate myself, right? The quickest way to get something done is having is to automate yourself. Your goal is like, okay, what do I need to do? And then how do I automate that? So let's walk through what if I had to do it on one machine. So let me pull up a text file. And we're gonna talk it out. All right, let's talk it out. All right, so let's make this font 48, and that's fine. Okay, so now let's talk it out. If I had to change the permissions of a directory on a machine, the first thing I need to be able to log in, right? And let me back out of that too, because I can see it's not going to do what I want it to do here. Let's go here. And let's make that 48. All right, whatever. All right, so I need to log in, right? I'm gonna need some I'm gonna need some when I log into that machine. I need some way to log in. I need username, password, or SSH keys. Another thing I need once I get there is I'm changing directory permissions on something that's probably created by root, but just for all intents purposes, I need to be able to sudo to the proper to get the proper permission. So I mean to get to utilize uh the proper account in order to change the permissions. So we're going to sudo. All right. So another thing I need to know when I'm doing this, right, is um what am I changing? What am I changing? And where am I changing it to? Well, what am I changing and what am I changing it to? The other thing I also need to know, I if you are like uh i- following the rule of GitOps, I need to test my changes, right? I need to test my changes. And last but not least, login, username, sudo. What am I changing? What am I changing it to? I could say we could say what is the current status, right? And then the other thing too, what I like to do is before I change anything, I like to tar up what is currently there and save it. Okay. Why do I do that? So if I mess up on permissions, or if I mess up something with the permissions or the directory, I can always get it back. So what I typically do is whatever the current state it is right now, I'm gonna leave it at that state. I'm gonna tar up that directory. I'm gonna save that to somewhere else, right? Then once I have that saved, then I can manipulate however I want. Why? Because I got it saved. So basically, I'm covering myself, right? So if I mess up and somebody like, hey, you changed the permissions on this, it's all wonky now. No problem. I can revert back quick. I got the original, right? I got the original, right? So another thing I need to do is here why I say test my changes. I need to make sure that it functions the same way as it did before. So I may need to write a unit test or have someone test it, right? So I have to do all these steps, right? And I know I probably left out some stuff. I had to do all these steps on every single machine. Now, another way you can do this, you can simply say, Tamika, I don't need Ansible. I could just write a bash script. And the bash script will go through and do all that for me. And I can be done. And I can write tests in bash. You absolutely surely can. But now the question is that the most efficient way to do it? Can you do it? And is it the most efficient? So that's where Ansible comes into play. You could do something in Bash, but it may not be the most efficient. You can do something in Ansible, and it may be the most efficient. And then sometimes you can be like, well, it's just gonna take too much to write that up in Ansible. It's only 3 lines of code. I'm just gonna throw this in a Bash script and keep it pushing. So you all are gonna have to learn when to utilize something and when not to utilize something, right? Put a one in the chat if what I'm saying makes sense so far. All right. All right. So let me pull up Ansible documentation. Didn't make sense, Frank? What didn't make sense? All right, so here's Ansible's here's Ansible's documentation. Blow it up some. All right, here you can see they came a long way with their documentation on their site. It used to then be this laid out, but now it's gotten a whole lot better, right? So here they've gotten get started with the fundamentals of Ansible automation, install the package, and run your first ad hoc command. Okay, so when they say run your ad hoc command, is they're saying, hey, I kind of call these like the one-offs. They kind of call it like my bash script one-offs if you really want to, right? Uh you said the reason to spend time using Ansible over bash, easy. Time, efficiency. Again, time and efficiency. Bash scripts are cool, but the efficiency that you get to just plug and play, like, oh, I don't need to remember how to compare a number. I don't need to remember how to do certain things. I think Ansible wins in it. I think simple things, like if I gotta log into one machine, I'm not gonna write an Ansible playbook to do that. But if I gotta log into 15 machines, I'm gonna run an Ansible playbook. But then we get into why in the world do you use Ansible versus Ansible platform? Like, what's the reason there? Like, these things are natural progressions here. So right now we're just gonna talk about Ansible, and I'll come back and talk about Ansible platform. So tonight, when we're talking about understanding the fundamentals of automation and understanding Ansible package, and then run your first ad hoc command. While we're talking, I'm going to go ahead and spin up a instance over at Google Cloud real quick, and then we'll just do a package install of Ansible, and then go from there. So I just want something simple. See. And then I am going to pick my OS. Here we go, right here. Let's change that. I'm loading up a Red Hat OS instead of Debian. Yeah, that's fine. And let's do RHEL 9 on this one. I don't need the ARM platform. 20 gigs is enough for what we're trying to do. And then we'll go from there. All right, so that's gonna take a minute to like load up. All right, so it's spinning and loading. Ansible is native to Red Hat. So anytime we're talking about installing a package, it's already been blessed by the gods from Red Hat. So we don't have to worry about that for Red Hat. So yeah, it's not like we're installing Ansible and then we're increasing our blast radius security wise. Of course, you're adding more packages, sure, but those packages have already been deemed, hey, here we go. We've already taken out any security vulnerabilities. We've taken care of that. You can, because Ansible is owned by Red Hat, so keep it taking. I just use whatever. I mean, I got credit over at DigitalOcean and all these other places. I'm right now. I'm just using I'm using Google Cloud. So my instance is up. And so let's go back and click on getting started with Ansible, and then we'll do an ad hoc command, and then we'll play, and then I'll talk about making a playbook, but I won't go into making a playbook because that's not what this conversation about. The conversation is really about the RHCE. So let me clear this. Okay, so my instance is up. Now let's look at, and let me make it a little smaller there because it's super huge for me. And let me expand that. All right, so understand the fundamentals of Ansible automation. All right, so there's some basics that we need to understand. Number one, Ansible is written in Python. Ansible is written in Python. Late fee. Thank you, Jamal. Thank you so much. Thank you for your tech ties there. All right. So Ansible is written in Python. Um, Puppet is written in Ruby, right? So I don't know if you remember the conversation Kelsey was having, and he was saying, like, if you really want to know a product, understand the code that is written in. Well, understanding the code that Ansible is written in, which is Python, will help you understand how to make your own modules, how to write your own things in Ansible. That's where the growth of Ansible comes into play. Where the growth of Puppet comes into play is understanding Ruby. Now, originally, the satellite server had Puppet integrated in it, so you had to learn Ruby and Puppet and how those things work. But as we have progressed on, Red Hat bought Ansible and then snatched out Puppet, and now Ansible is the go-to automation inside of the actual satellite server. All right, so as you can see here, when you click on the Ansible documentation, you can see you got the getting started with Ansible, getting started with the execution environments. And I'm just going down the side here. The installation and upgrade configuration, right? It's installation guide, Ansible porting guide. Here, using Ansible. But we're not gonna get deep down into these things because you can contribute, you can extend. Like I said, you do the developers guide, common Ansible scenarios, network automation, Ansible Galaxy, the references. Let's get back up here to the very, very top, and we got Ansible getting started. Now, my best suggestion to you is I always tell you to read the documentation, but take the documentation and learn how to use the documentation, learn how to use the documentation from command line as well too, and also learn how to make your do your own set up your own little things, right? Just my thoughts, right? What's going on, Kamai? 27, how you doing? All right, so let's get busy. So by default, here's a couple of things just off the rip. You're gonna need to make sure Python is installed with Ansible for Ansible. So here's my instance that I have, right? I'm going to check to see if not Ansible, if Python is installed on this machine, and I'll check to see just it's just a bare uh, uh, um, uh, a simple instance out in Google. I just want to see what's on there, right? So in order to query that, I can use RPM or DNF, but I'm gonna use RPM. So I'm sudo, I'm gonna say RPM dash QA, and then I'm a grep for let me grep for Ansible just to see if it's installed. Okay, nothing there. And let's see if Python is installed. Okay, so we're pulling back some stuff with Python. So it seems like Python as a baseline is already installed for me. So let me clear my screen. And now I'm gonna do a sudo. I can do DNF. You can use yum. I interchange them because I can because they're linked to each other. And then here's let's install Ansible. And I'm not going to put the dash Y behind it. I know I can automate the install. I just want to show you all um, how that works. So look what happens. You can see because I just started this machine up, it has to go and connect to the actual repos and then contact those repos and start getting basically creating a database of those repos, so we know what's there and what's not, right? So so here is it is going to do its thing, and I'll show you where those repos are at as well too, so you can look and see like where those repos at, where is it pulling that from, so you can get a chance to like, hey, I may need to, I may need, I may need those repos or whatnot. So by default, because I'm using a instance out in um on Google Cloud, I am also paying for a license on Google Cloud. So by default, it's going to go out and connect to whatever satellite server or whatever place they have repos at. I could have avoided this by saying, "Hey, let me go get my developer's license at Red Hat and I'll point my cloud instance on Google Cloud back to my Red Hat subscription." So now look at this. It says no match for Ansible. Like it didn't find anything for Ansible. Okay, cool. We didn't find nothing for Ansible. So now, just because I'm wondering why it didn't find nothing for Ansible, what I do is I'll do a yum. Let me sudo first. Sudo yum search Ansible. And I just want to see if it pulled back anything in under the repos. Okay. So it pulled back stuff from the repos. And as you can see here, because I don't want to go link somewhere else. I wanted to install the baseline stuff for me. You can see that I can pull back Ansible collection. I can pull back free IPA, but really I want Ansible dash core. I don't need to pull back the source. So I'll just say, hey, pull me back Ansible dash core. I'll use my up arrow. And then I'll say, yay, install Ansible dash core. All right. And so now you see that it had already built up its stuff in terms of the database. So it already had it built it up. So it came back pretty quick. But look what it come back and tells me what it needs for installation. It's telling me, hey, you're gonna install Ansible Core. That's cool. We got you. Cause you know what? I'm Yum. I'm Yum. I'm DNF. This is what we do. We resolve dependencies. That's the difference between RPM, and that's the difference between RPM and DNF. It says, hey, I'm gonna resolve these dependencies for you, but you let me know if you want me to install these, because hey, you may not want to install these. So look, so now we say, okay, the dependencies are Git core. There are Python 3 CFFI. Then you have Python 3 cryptography, packaging, Ply, PyC parser, PyParsing, and Resolve, and SSH Pass. SSH Pass is your friend, but I won't do that tonight. That can be a little complicated. I won't do that tonight. I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to save you. All right. So because I didn't hit the dash Y at the end of my command, it's asking me, you want us to download this stuff and you want us to install it. Yeah, I want you to do that. So I'm gonna hit Y, and now it's gonna go out, download those things and start installing them, right? So at the end of this, we have Ansible Core installed. Now I can go check that, and I can go back and do my RPM query. Notice I use RPM because RPM tells me from the database, local database, what's installed locally. I'm not using Yum to tell me that. I'm using RPM to tell me that. So when RPM tells me that, we can go, all right, say, yeah, you got Ansible Core installed, girl. You straight. So we just installed the package, right? We just installed Ansible Core, right? So we installed Ansible Core. I didn't install everything else, that all the other stuff, free IPA. I don't need all that stuff, right? So here is where the next thing comes into play. The next thing is there's two things. I can use documentation online, or I can use documentation internally that comes with the package, right? So before, let me clear the screen so we can get above that. If I type in and hit double tab, it's gonna tell me, oh look, you got AN. Okay, What you want me to tab complete on? You want me to tab complete on Anacron or Ansible, Ansible-config, Ansible-connection, so forth and so on. And I'm saying, I just want you to I just want to complete on Ansible. Now I'm going to type Ansible -- help, right? And now it just scrolls off the screen, right? So now I need to pipe that over to less, right? So I pipe that over to less, pipe. That's what I said. And it's a reason why I did that, because I want to get a look at what my options are. Remember, inside of Red Hat, you have to remember how commands work. Commands basically is the actual command, and then the options that are associated, or arguments that are associated with it, and then the options. If you have taken the 024 course, I think they kind of go through this, but most definitely in the 124 course, where they break down like how to read. I think understanding the commands are pivotal for you to understand how any command works on a Linux box, on any Linux box. You got a command, you're gonna have a set of arguments, and you're gonna have some options, but what are mandatory and what are not, right? So back over here, we have Ansible, and everything that's in the brackets, those are options that I can choose from. They're not mandatory. But there is also a pattern that you got to understand when it comes to Ansible, right? And so let's go and look at the documentation of Ansible 2, and what an ad hoc command is. All right, so that's that. I'm gonna move this out the way. We're gonna leave that over here. All right, so here they have the introduction to Ansible and getting started. Here they tell you eliminate immediately off the bat, eliminate repetition and workflows. They also say you can put it back the way it was. Eliminate repetition and workflows. Manage and maintain system configuration. Continuously deploy complex software. Perform zero downtime rolling updates. You can't really do that in Bash. All right, so is one key thing about Ansible, the over Puppet is agentless. I only need the SSH keys over there and the username that I'm gonna use, the server's account, if we want to look at it from that perspective. Simplicity, scalability, and flexibility. Here is a keyword that is going to be on an interview question. What does it mean to be idempotent? What does that mean? You're going to hear that so much. It says when the system is in the state your playbook describes, Ansible does not change anything, even if the playbook runs multiple times. So what does idempotent mean? Let's go look it up. And you can type in the chat if you know what it is. But let's go look it up so you can have it for your own definition. It says idempotence is any function that can be executed several times without changing the final result beyond its first iteration. All right? Without changing the result beyond its first iteration, right? So you hear that a lot. You're going to hear that a lot when it comes down to I'm telling you this, it's an interview question. A lot of people ask, well, what's so special about Ansible? What do you get out of it? Blah blah blah. So you're gonna get that. All right. So now let me go back. Start automating with Ansible. All right. So we did the other way. I didn't use pip, which is a Python product to install Ansible. I just use DNF. But you can use pip on your Mac. Is it pip? No, it's brute on your Mac. If you want to use pip, you would have to install the Python pip package in order to do it. So here They got started with that, boom, installing Ansible and then doing demos. So here, installing Ansible, let's click on here because there's a whole bunch of things that you all need to know, right? So you got Ansible is agentless, work remotely with SSH, PowerShell, you use WinRM. You can use Ansible with PowerShell. If you're a Windows person, you can use WinRM with Ansible. So then you got control nodes. So control nodes is like, hey, I'm over here and I need all this set up because I'm using this to communicate out. Now, in order to communicate out, because I'm running over SSH, typically it's over port 22 unless you change your SSH ports. So typically I would run over port 22, log into the machine, do what I need to do, and then come back. All right, so then you got control node, manage nodes, node requirement summary, selecting the Ansible package that you're going to install and the version, and then upgrading Ansible, and then upgrading with pip, installing Ansible to containers. Now, here's the thing. Can you work in an environment where you got Ansible on your GitLab runner as a inside of a container? Absolutely. But to me, it just made more sense just to install Ansible on the server itself and let the runner be the actual machine. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. Some people get all into this. It can get convoluted when you start talking about putting Ansible in the containers to do whatever it is that you need to do. Installing for development, confirming your installation, adding Ansible command shell completion, right? So here they're getting started with that. They're talking about that. They walk through all of this. All right. The next one is they have Ansible labs, labs to provide further knowledge on different topics, and then demos. All right, so let's go to demos. So here is their repo for Ansible, where they have a repository of demos that you may want to play with and use, right? How to register your Linux box using Ansible with Red Hat, troubleshooting, sudo, patching, starter service, and so forth. Here's my best suggestion to you. Before you dive off into just installing Ansible, I think you should know how to read playbooks or read an ad hoc command. And that's where I would start. I would start also with like, what is the baseline? When I say what's the baseline is like, okay, let's come back to our screen and it's clear. If I want to install, if I want to add a user, if I want to add a user to my local box right now, what is it to add a user? So I sudo, I'm going to do user add, and I'll just say I'm adding a user named John, right? Typically, that's what you're doing. However, most of the time, you may want to do a little bit more than just add a user. You may want to add a user to a particular group. You may want to add a user to have a certain UID, GID. You may want the user not to have their home directory in /home John. It may be /home something else and then John. It could be a number of things, right? So you want to craft this user profile, like to add a user. Now, I'm just talking about adding one user. If I got to add 20 users to my local box, sure, I can write a bash script to do that. But if I had to add 20 users to, say, 30 boxes, I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to do that in bash. I want to do that with Ansible, right? All right, so here, let's go back to the Ansible documentation, and then I'm gonna show you on command line the Ansible documentation. Let's go Ansible documentation. Let's go here. Oh, there it is right there. Ansible doc, right? So here, this is showing you from command line the Ansible documentation, but let's give an example playbook. Ansible add user documentation. All right, so here we go. All right, so here, the way Ansible lays out their documentation, they lay it out for you so well that I personally think you probably do better learning Ansible first than you do learning Linux. But I get why you would learn Linux first. I think it's so easy to learn Ansible first. So I'm scrolling down here because I'm trying to get to examples. That's why I was going so fast. All right, so here's some examples, right? So this example is saying, hey, you want to add a user named John D with a specific UID into having their primary group as admin. It says, hey, you need to utilize Ansible.builtin.user. That is what you're going to use. And I want to take note. I got ahead of myself. You need to note that this is all in YAML. And YAML has its own specifications on how things should be laid out, right? And so when we talk about this, how things should be laid out, meaning YAML has 3 spaces. So you see here, you got basically a description of what you're going to do. Then you have and you can see this is all a string. It's all a string. And then you have the module that you're actually using, which is Ansible.builtin.user. And Ansible.builtin.user has its own set of within that module, it's the things that you can use. So let's scroll back up. So in here, let me type in name, even though I was right there. Oh, let's go on down the side. I don't need that. Here we go, right here. Let's scroll up to name. So here we go, name. You can see name has a string that is required by and the name of the user to create, move, remove, or modify. And you can see it's a required option that you got to have. You got to have name. And so required means like, oh, I gotta have this. Oh, so it won't even work without it, basically. So let's scroll back down here to the bottom of where we got examples at. It's saying that name is something that you gotta have. Now you can go through the actual module for Ansible .builtin.user and say, okay, well, what's required? Because those are the things that are gonna make or break you. Like if it's not required, then you don't have to worry about it. But if it's required, you got to have it or it won't work. All right. So you have name, comment, UID, and group. And that's all on this page on what you can do with it and how it's used. So now let's look at this. Let's say you're on an exam. And on the exam, you don't have the option here. I just added the user, but you don't have the option to utilize the actual internet. So you could do Ansible and you can double tab again, dash doc. And now let's do dash help. Because what are my options here? Okay, so and then let me type that over to less. So it's saying here for Ansible, I can do Ansible dash doc dash help. I can use Ansible with the dash V for version, whatever module I want to use. But in this case, really all I want to do is I want to get some idea of the Ansible documentation installed on my machine, right? So clear. So Ansible dash doc. And let's say I want to look up the module. Well, I should show you that, but anyway. Ansible doc, and what was it? Built-in.users. Let's see. I probably did it wrong, but let me double verify. Let me look up my Ansible command. Oops, spelling that wrong. Doc. Let me do that right quick. Users. I want the documentation. Clear. And let me grep for -m. Oh, you want to let me find that? That's awesome. Expectation, cool. All right, so now we got to get into it. Is it just user? I thought it was you had to do the module. Well, that's how I did it. Maybe they changed it. I thought you had to do the -m. Did they change that after Ansible Core? When they changed Ansible to over to Ansible Dash Core? All right, so here we go. So here's the module. But here's what I want. Right here, where we say equals, that's mandatory. The dashes are optional. So here we go. So the dash append, the authorization, the comment, the create, the expires. This is all for the users, right? The groups, hidden, the home directory. Again, optionally set the user's home directory. Here's another one down here where we want to do the name. You can see name has the equal in front. And so that makes it mandatory. I'm gonna highlight that. It makes that mandatory, right? So you could actually probably come in here and just search for that did it in real 8. Okay, yeah, because I know you used to have to search by module. So equal. Oh, you don't want to find it? Oh, maybe I need to go back up. All right, equal right there. I'm just trying to find where all the equal signs are at. So on there it is on name, and I'm looking only to the left. Okay, so name is the only one that's required in here, where you have to have name as one of the ones. So in theory, we could grab this here. Let's do it as an ad hoc command. Also, I'm thinking about ad hoc command. Let's do this as an ad hoc command, right? And as an ad hoc command, which will be local to my box, I'm going to not SSH out, but locally on local connection, I am going to locally connect to my box. I'm going to do an ad hoc command, and then I'm going to go down and then do add in a user. What you say? Slash examples. Oh, okay, I got you. Let's go back to my thing. I think what you're saying here is in the examples page down here. There's examples in here, is what you're trying to say. Here's the one for built in. But now we need to do local connection. So let's do Ansible local connection. So now let's do Ansible local connection and do this built in. Let's see. Let's see what changes have come about for Ansible local connection. All right, so Ansible local connection, the latest stable community, blah blah blah. The connection plugin is part of Ansible Core and included in all Ansible installations. In most cases, you can use the short plugin name called local. Right, so Ansible built-in local for easy linking to plugin documentation and to avoid conflicting with other collections. All right, so here, let's go down a little bit further. So in here, and I'll talk about this now since this is coming up. Normally, you have in Ansible an inventory file. All right, you have an inventory file. Now, here's the key with the inventory file. And Heather, you can back me up if I'm wrong on this one. The inventory file usually is as slash Etsy Ansible, and then you'll have Ansible config, Ansible.config, or you'll throw in the inventory. So let's go back over here. But typically, most people, when they create their stuff, they try to create a general location. They try to create a inventory file, and they usually run it out of the home directory of the user, so they can have that inventory file. So now let's go. Let's do this one thing. So let's clear, and let's do a RPM -QA. Let me sudo. Oops, come back. Control A. Oh, that's nice. Let me sudo that. And that's I want to do QILC. That's just files by package. And I probably spelled that wrong, but we'll get it down. Ansible -core. All right, cool. So what I'm doing is I'm showcasing that when I installed Ansible Core, it installed a whole bunch of other stuff. But what I want to show is the packages that it also installed too, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So let's go pipe this over to less. So you can see the version I installed was 2.14. You can see that it was Ansible Core. You can see the build of that last one. You can see it has a SHA. It tells you the size. And it gives you a little bit summary about Ansible. But look here, and this is important. You can see I have etc Ansible directory more than likely got created on my system. And then Ansible.config got created on my system. And then etc Ansible hosts. And then roles. And then you can see here user bin. These are the binaries that when I hit that double tab for tab completion, that's what pops up for me. Those things are popping up for me. And then here's some libraries that actually got installed and so forth. So I want to know, this is how you can tell what your latest blast radius is when you're installing packages. You can tell what your latest blast radius is. All right, so let's clear that screen. And now let's go over here to, I'm a sudo to root now. And now I'm gonna go to etc Ansible, because we know that got created because we just saw that, right? And now we look in here, you can see I got Ansible roles already created. I have a host file that's already created, and then I have an Ansible.config file. So when I go over here to host, you know what, Vim is probably not installed. Let me do that. I'm install or DNF install Vim. And we'll do a -Y. Oh, cool. It's already installed. Awesome. Usually they don't install it. So let's do a Vim on host. And this gives you an example of what the host file can look like for, not the host file, but the host file for Ansible looks like. Why is this important? This is the file or the inventory file by default that can be used. You can create your own inventory file. So this inventory file is green, like you see here, green. You can put in IP addresses. You can put in a group, and under the group you can have a list. You can have you can get fancy with it, like maybe all your servers are www something 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 02 01 03 .example.com .will.com or what have you. You can get funky with it. You can mix it up, and they're just showing you as an example. I normally would do this if I was changing something. I would keep the host file the same. Like I would take that and make that host.backup, so, or host.example, so I can always refer to it as an example. And then I would split screen my stuff and use that as an example of what of an example or a guide on how to create my host file or my inventory file, right? And then you have Ansible config. So you have Ansible.config CFG here, where you're coming in and here they got an example. They push you out to an example here on what you can add to this config. So maybe you don't want in your Ansible config, you don't want it to download all of the uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, when you use Ansible, it reaches out and downloads it downloads all the information for you for that particular server. Maybe you don't want it to gather the facts. That's what it is, gathering the facts. You don't want that because some people are like, I don't want you to gather the facts or nothing. I just need you to do what I tell you to do. So, that's a way your option there. That's a time thing there where you want to say, hey, gather this facts these one time and then go off and do something else, right? Everybody with me so far? Y'all put a one in the chat if you with me. All right. All right. And I said I wasn't going to teach this class too. But here I am. We're supposed to be going over the RACE. Now we're kind of going over the RACE indirectly, man, All right. So ad hoc commands. I'm going to pull this over. And we'll do one ad hoc command. And then we'll get back to the RHCE. We'll walk through it. All right. So why use ad hoc commands? Ad hoc commands, again, commands are great tasks you repeat rarely. For example, if you want to power off all your machines in your lab, you could just run the ad hoc command, or you could turn it into a playbook and go from there. I know yeah. So ad hoc commands are great for tasks. Boom, boom, boom. So here's an example. Right, you got Ansible, and then the pattern, and then that's why I was thinking about the module, and then the -A, and those are the module options. So inside where I showed you where we had name, when we're doing users, we're doing add the users, and they had name, comment, so forth and so on. That's where that comes. Those are the options, right? So they give you some use cases of when to use Ansible, right? They give you some use cases here. So here you're saying, hey, Ansible, Atlanta dash A SBIN reboot. So SBIN is a root command, so it needs to have root permissions, or someone has gone into the actual someone has gone into the actual permissions file, the sudo file, and changed it and allow you to run it to run the reboot command with the sudo command, and then you run reboot. But either way, you got to sudo up to an admin role, right? And then they're saying the -A, remember up here, the -A was the module options. So in this case, we're saying, hey, our inventory, because there's some inventory file that knows or has a list of what Atlanta is. I mean, Atlanta, and then the IP address associated with it. Like, how do I get there, right? So Ansible Atlanta -A SBIN reboot. Like you're like Ansible in your host file or in an inventory file, you got Atlanta listed somewhere in there, right? It could be in a group or what have you. And Atlanta, you could probably pass that off to for other stuff, right? You could name Atlanta a group, but in this case, it's Atlanta. All right. So here, by default, use Ansible uses 5 simultaneous processes if you have more hosts than the value set to fork count. It can increase the time it takes for Ansible to communicate with the host to reboot the Atlanta servers with. And again, they got it in bracket there because now we got Atlanta as a group, servers with 10 parallel forks, right? And the same down here, right? So these are I consider your Ansible commands to be like, yeah, you're quick and dirty, but I call them the one-offs. I call these our one-offs that we're doing, right? All right, so here we go. Let's scroll back up. This is just an example of an ad hoc command. Here we go when we're talking about gathering the facts. All right. So by default, I say I want to gather the facts for my machine. I'm building up to the ad hoc command, but we're gonna get there. So let me look. And I'm probably gonna do I need to do local connection on this, but um let me get it going here. Yeah. And let me do this. Do, 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 do. And localhost should default to 127.0.0.1. So it should look locally. All right, so let's clear that. So here is what the facts look like gathered locally. And let me pipe this over. I'll let it run, and then what I'll do is I'll put I can set it up to run locally and store in a directory, but this is fine. We'll just say output dot text. All right, so it's gonna run and do its thing, and now I'm gonna remove this and then run it here. So you can see. All right, you can see it scrolls off my screen. Scroll off the screen. Why don't you? Right. So that's why I kicked it over to a file. So let's clear and let's do it ls. And now let's look at output dot text. So this is actually written in JQ, written in JSON, and I can use JQ to parse this. So you can see here, I got localhost and it gathered some Ansible facts for me, right? It gave me Ansible underscore facts. And then I can say, okay, Ansible, all IPv4, the IPv6 address, the architecture. I can use JQ to parse this information, and now I can start to manipulate my actual Ansible my actual hosts themselves. But I need to have JQ installed, right? So I'm gonna just type JQ and see what happens. It's not found. Awesome. Let's do DNF install JQ. And so I didn't pass the dash Y, so I hit that. So now we got JQ installed, so forth and so on. All right, so now I have this stuff out in a text file, right? So JQ, I think, can be easy to learn or it can be hard to learn. So let's go here. I want to do, let me see if this is a good one to look at for parsing. Mm, 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 mm. Let me see. All right, so let's do this is where I always stumble at. I always stumble on JQ. Yeah, I think it's the other way around. I need to cat it and then pipe it over to JQ. And I think JQ is going to require me to do this. Yeah, something like that. I can't remember. Hold on. Yeah, I forgot. Let me look it up. Is it this one? I forget. Let me see if I can do it this way. And I may have to save, I may have to go back and save it as a JSON file. I may have to go back and do that. Let me look at it. properties, JQ. All right, let's do this. Let is let is move this over to output.txt to output dot JSON. And let me see if I can do it on that. Not such file. Oh, oops. I didn't change to JSON. Yeah, I kind of remember how to get what I want out of this. This is where I always had problems with JSON. All right, let's look at it. Let's go down the path of using JSON. All right. And I'll show you what I'm talking about, why the power of JSON is going to help you with this. So here's an example here. All right. So let me control C that. So let's type it. So if I did echo and in parentheses, and that's, in brackets, let's say we got name, right? And then we got a value, and the value is John. But I'm trying to break this file, parse this file, and then go here and pipe it over to JQ, right? And then here we're gonna grab dot name, right? So it returns John. In our case, I want to be able to parse through this file. So let's go back and look at this file. Output.json. In this file, we should be able to parse through and get, and if I say give me JQ dot Ansible all IPv4 addresses, it should output the IPv4 address. If I say give me the BIOS date right here, if I say give me the Ansible BIOS date, it should parse out the BIOS date, right? So that's what we want to, that's the whole purpose of using this, is so you can parse out the date and so you can have all this information. All right. So next thing up is what we want to do is when we get information back about, and I want to say information, when we gather the facts about our servers, we want to be able to manipulate our servers for whatever it is that we want to manipulate them on. So say I don't know all the, say I don't know what users are on a box, say, and I just came in as an admin. I can use Ansible, provided that, I set it up and install it and get my information going or whatnot. I can then use Ansible to find out and say, okay, well, what are all the users on that box, or how much memory is on that box, how much storage is left on the box, what are the other host names that box may have. I can pull back and gather facts about that box remotely, and that way if anything ever comes up, I know what the status is of that box, or what the state of that box is in. Hence why when you start moving over into the Ansible platform, when we want to continuously monitor those machines for the state of where they're at, that's where the Ansible platform comes in at. All right, so now let's get our ad hoc command. I mean, not an ad hoc command, but let's get our stuff to work with JQ. All right, so here, let's clear my screen, right? And then let's look here. So we got output.json. So I tried the JQ, and I don't know why my JQ didn't work. This is where you need Michael Jenkins at. All right, so let's do JQ on, and let me get my command right. Boom, 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 boom. Let me go back. I'm looking at another screen, so bear with me. See, JQ, and then the file. Yeah, so that's what it got. So that what I'm seeing here is JQ dot, And maybe because I didn't say that as JSON, but I moved it over to JSON, it didn't like it. We'll find out. Yeah, it doesn't like that. So let's do this. Let's do our facts. Let's do a history and grep facts, grep local. And then let's run line 12, right? I'm gonna cut and paste because I want to set up, and then I want to put that in output .json. I don't think it's gonna make a difference, but you never know. All right, so cool. All right, so yeah, see, it don't matter. It still doesn't like that particular out. It's not outputting that to me. All right, so let's go in here and look at output.json. And let's grab this here. I just want to see if it's gonna work still. It may or may not, but we'll find out. All right, so here, JQ, and we'll put this here because it should have returned everything. All right, so we want to get that. Yeah, see, it doesn't like that. Let's look up and see what this error is. Let's look and see what this error is. All right, so grab that, and then let's put in JQ. All right, let's see if anybody got it, what that error is. Let's see. Okay, let's try that. Let me see something. Let's do this output. Let's do cat, and then let's do JQ dot. Well, still don't like it. I don't know where that is at. I know I've had this error before. This is real life troubleshooting, folks. Let's see. Like 5 months ago, recap, get out the way. Let's blow this up. I'll try echo. I'll try echo. Hold on, let me see. It's a file, so I don't know why it would be any different. Online research to the rescue, curl, da 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 da. I don't want curl. Well, why are you giving me curl commands? That's not what I want. Hold on, let me try one more thing, then I'll look at it. Yeah, y'all keep calling my curl. Hold on. Let's look. Clear. Well, I did it with the echo. I did echo earlier. Yeah, echo is just gonna print that out, but cat is giving me what I need, right? You get that, but when I pipe that over to just JQ, I get that. If I do JQ dot, I get that. And if I do JQ, oh, DB Darrell, what's going on with the JQ, right? The invalid parser. I forgot how to get past the invalid parser. Let me minimize that and come back over here. I know you know. Oh, you know what? Is it the end of the file thing? Is it that file? Let me guess. Is that the end of the file? I just said it here. I didn't even look at the screen. I was like, I forgot JSON doesn't like, you got to have a new line at the end. Is it that right there? It don't like it because you don't have a new line. I forgot about that. All right, so now this should work. How about just a dot? You didn't like that either. Didn't like that either. Let me go back. Make sure I saved it. I got a new line in there. I put a new line in there. And I saved it. And I saved it as a JSON. And we're doing a cat. I did it without it. Oh, sorry. I did it without it. I did it with the dot. It doesn't like that. I don't know why it don't like that. That was I think that was it though. It was an end of line error. Let me look at that. JQ new line error. New line error. Bash. I think it was something with that. I just can't remember. But anyway, I have to come back next week and show it. End it without a character in the cursor and the semicolon. What do you say? End it without the character. Yeah, but it's not even even if I just do JQ, it's not giving me that. And even if I did like name from it, let me look and see if it'll work. I don't think it's gonna work. See, that's a single quote name. Let me look at this because I know which one I want. History, grep, Ansible. Yeah, so here it is right here. JQ dot Ansible underscore all underscore IPv4 underscore addresses. Right. And then on output dot JSON. Oops. Yeah, it don't like that. It don't like this without it. Yeah, it just don't like it. I don't know what I have to figure that out. I spent a lot of time on this. I had to figure that out. I had to figure out why what is going. I think it is correct that is the let me do it this way. I think it is correct on the I'm gonna get rid of this. I think it is correct on the Ansible putting a new line in there, but yeah, see, it doesn't even like it when I do just a JQ on Ansible all IPv4 addresses. It doesn't even like that either. It doesn't even like that either. But either way, I'll figure that out and I'll come back. I'll probably post it on the community wall once I figure it out. Once it come back to me as to why that don't work. But yeah, it's the JQ. It's something with the characters that it doesn't like in the output.json. It's something about the characters here that it doesn't like, and I'm not I don't remember what that was. I don't remember what that was. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Yeah, JQ is supposed to disregard the error. But anyway, so you said I'm lost this code RT. I'm not sure what RT means. I'm not sure what RT means. All right, so back to where we were, the ad hoc command. So you saw how Ansible was able to gather facts about the local system. It would do that for all systems, unless you go into the Ansible config file and do that. I'm sure Python would do that. All right. So okay. So here, we're talking about making a copy, and notice that the -a is back again. So now let's just do ad hoc command on Ansible add a user from the ad hoc command. So let's go back here and do Ansible dash Ansible dash doc, and then we'll go back and then users. Sorry, user. And so here we know name has to be one. We'll give it a comment and we'll create a home. But let's go down here to examples. And we're going to literally use this on our text file. So I'm going to take this, all right, and I'm going to put this on our text file. Let me get my text file up here. And let's close this. All right, so here's our text file. So I'll just put this down here. All right. So we have that. And I'll make this skinny right here. And then I'll bring this back over and make this tiny. Shrink it down. So we got them side by side right there. All right. So now let's quit. So let's clear this. And I need a little more room. Need a little more room. All right. So now let's clear our screen. All right. So now we're going to do Ansible because we're doing localhost. I may have to go in and put that in the actual file and do the connection and all of that, but I'll just see if it runs. I don't think it will. All right. The next thing we need to do is we got to remember the command, right? How Ansible ad hoc command is. So let's go back here. Move this out the way too. Let's go back here so you can get what I'm doing with the Ansible ad hoc command. Oh, here it is right here. Scroll down. The -m is the module that I'm going to use, right? And then the actual options I'm going to use. So let's just do name. Let's keep it simple. I don't want to do too much. Come back over. Here we go. All right. So localhost. I don't want to download a file. Thank you. -m. Oops, you can't see it. All right, the -m, I want to do user add. Oopsie, oopsie, oopsie. And I know I'm messing this up. And then we got our options. And then we're going to say name. And I may need to put this in brackets. Let me get this right again. I may need to put that in single quotes and names. We'll do Taylor. And I know I'm screwing this one up, but it's okay. I don't think I got to go back and look at it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Knew I messed that up. Awesome. All right. So this task user has extra parameters. This is only with the build. Oh, I need to go use the legacy shell. All right, so I need to use Ansible built-in users. All right, so let's go and do that. Ansible built-in user. All right. All right. What we complaining about now has extra parameters. The dash A, something I'm missing here. With the, I think it's my options. So let's go back and fix my options. So with the ad hoc command, we're on rail 9 now. Ansible. Let's get the it's my syntax that's off. And I know it is. So let's do that. Let's get my ad hoc command correct. So we got Ansible, blah, 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 single quote, correct, name, correct, cool. You said this is fun? You know what? I don't know if I got to use shell. Let me double verify that. I may have to use shell. I may have to do the shell option. Hold on. Ad hoc shell command. Let me run that real quick. Let me get that. I may have to change this to shell. And then, I mean, I could do it with shell, but I didn't want to do it with shell. I know what you're saying. I could do shell, then user add, and then keep it pushing, which is the cheat code. Literally, it's the cheat code. Like, I didn't want to do it that way. You saying shell. And then with the shell, I can pass it my command. I need to look at Ansible shell. Yeah, I do prefer playbooks. But here it would be the command, it would be user add. I gotta look at the command. And it'll be Taylor. Right? Like that. But I gotta look at Ansible shell. I forget what the command is for Ansible shell. I mean, what the options are for Ansible shell. Ad hoc. Let's look it up real quick. I'm looking to see what, oh, here it is right here, Ansible shell. Let's see, what are my options? Trader, creates, freeform, removes, check mode, raw. Let's see. Do I pass args? No. You should be able to just use the command CMD. It should be this. And that's the command. And this is what you want to pass. I can't remember if it's a single, I mean, if it's a colon afterwards, I don't remember. That's what I don't remember right here. I don't remember if it's a colon or not. Yeah, that's what I don't remember. Dash A, CMD, user add. I'll figure it out. But the Ansible localhost, and this is the other thing that you're going to have to figure out. And I don't know if this has changed, so don't quote me on this one. For localhost, you could specify inside your host file what localhost is. It may already be in there by default, but you also have to have the local connection as well too for the ad hoc command. All right. So let me do localhost. Ansible and local connection. And let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So typically you may have to do this. You may have to go inside, and this is this is an example. And this is an older example. And I can tell this is older. Let me see how much older this is. Yeah, see, this is 2018. I can tell it's old. So here they have Ansible, and then they got, hey, run it on localhost or 127.0.0.1. The module they're using is file, and then the destination, and again, the options for file are destination, option, and then a.text, and then they want the mode and so forth. In theory, I should be able to copy this. It may or may not work, but let's find out. In theory, right? And this is from 2018. They may have changed this. Well, I can't use this. So let me clear that and clear this and put that there. Yeah, see, it didn't like it, right? Because it's an older, um oh, and it may be the fact that these are the wrong way too. Let's go here. I'm gonna try it one more time. Yeah, see, okay, it liked that. It liked it in the older one, right? So basically, what I did was localhost, use file, it created uh the file module, created a directory and slash op, and it gave it the options for mode and so forth. In theory, I should be able to use shell the same way. Command it was old. It was command was the actual module, and then what you wanted to run. So in theory, using the old style, if I change this to, I don't know if command is still around, but it may be shell. I don't know. Let me see. It may be shell. I tried. Well, hold on. We won't have to trick ourselves. We won't have to do that. Let's do Ansible dash doc dash let's do command. Can I use that? Yeah. All right. So I can use command. So in theory, I can use command the same way here. Right. And I can say in this thing here, I want you to do um user add test. Oops, I got two doubles there. And now if I do if I just do an ls on home, you'll see I have test there. I could literally go up and use user add Taylor, and it'll create the user Taylor. I don't like doing it this way. I'm gonna tell you why I don't like doing it this way. Because now it's the cheat code. Because I'm doing it that way, I'm now saying, "Hey, Taylor, you are my users don't have a template." So I like to create a template for my users. So that's where I would have probably a playbook to do these things. So what you call it saying do user. All right, I'll do user. And then I'll do we'll do Taylor 2. I don't like Taylor 2 like that. Let me get rid of the quotes there. Oh, you got name. I forgot. That's my bad. Yeah. Can I use the built-in? See it like it that way too. All right, so let's go back and do Taylor 3. All right. So in theory, what you should have in a playbook is you should have your user set up this way and run your playbook to add in and for loop through uh interchanging out these users here. So you can have user John um put in. You can also say, hey, add give a comment of this user. Also, you can always make sure they add to the same group, primary group. You don't have to specify the UID because it should automatically increment the UID. And the GID, you can say add to. You don't need to add the GID because it should automatically increment to that as well too, right? So again, this all depends on it all depends on how you want to automate your stuff. And this is the important part. You want to make the task and the playbooks repeatable for somebody else to come behind you and use. And you want to also make the task repeat the playbook easy to use, right? Easy to use. So you would want to set up a GitLab repo. You want to add a README. You want to just talk about what the actual playbook does. You want a description of that. And then if you start getting really, really fancy, you start rolling this into a user add role where you got a user add role for this. So again, it's a natural progression. Ad hoc roles and then I mean ad hoc commands, yeah, and then roles and then playbook and then collections. So I'll probably go back over. I gotta find out why this JQ didn't work. That was my bad. I don't know why that JQ didn't work. That bothers me because I'll be sitting here banging like, oh, this is what I need to do, and then I'll make. And I know I did a video on this on that before. All right. So again, going back to why the RECE. That's really where this all came from. Uh, this all came from because that's the next natural progression is the RECE. Can you get a job with RHCSA and RHCE? Yeah. So here's the RHCE. Let's type in Ansible and I'm just gonna search. All right. And then we back out a little bit. So we see, and I just typed in Ansible. Somebody's hiring a Linux system administrator, 75,000 a year for Linux admin, for security automation engineer. Most people who are in security use Ansible. A systems engineer, Northrop Grumman using Ansible. DevOps engineer, again, you're gonna use that particularly in DevOps. I just typed in Ansible. Here's principal on site, Raytheon, Aurora, using Ansible. I ain't gonna say nothing about that position. I'm gonna keep laughing and keep moving. I know what that position entails. I know what they're doing on that position. Hey, I'm just laughing because it's funny to me. All right, systems cloud engineer and support DAF networks. This is in Rome, New York. Senior DevOps engineer. So all those that are like, oh, I'm gonna be a DevOps engineer, you're gonna need to know some Kubernetes, you're gonna need to know some Ansible, Terraform, some GitOps, some GitLab, some security, something like that, right? You're just gonna need to know that. This one here, I'm gonna keep going because I want to type in automation engineer. Um, Here we go, right here, and let's look at it. 7 years of experience, SolidWorks. Let me see if it's the same. I'm gonna see if it's talking the same thing. It doesn't sound like it. Yeah, looks a little different. Let me put Linux on the back end of that so that we can narrow that down. All right. DigitalOcean, a fleet engineer automation. All right. Developing scripts, track record, Bash, Python, Perl, understanding hypervisors or Linux-based virtualization, KVM, Zen, problem solving skills, salary range from 175 to 205. Let me look and see if anything else here. Strong mentoring of young engineers, right? Cross-functional teams, developing scripts, and this is all at DigitalOcean. This is all at DigitalOcean, right? 175 to 205 remote. 175 to 205 remote. Another one, BAE. Another one at Meta, robotics automation engineer, right? Let's look at it. This one is with Meta. Issues, self-starter, blah, 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 Python, C++. They want somebody to understand open navigation manipulation. This open CV, that's a little bit more advanced to me. That's not dealing with Ansible. That's a little bit more advanced to me. But I get it though. Full stack, understand React, backends, and so forth. That's a little advanced to me. Right here, senior system Linux administrator. This is probably more your speed when you're looking at it. You're working 410s, um, working closely across areas, Visa included, AIX, Linux, VMware. Again, you're going to have some type of Linux involved in that, Kubernetes. These are all the things that you all will be doing. With senior automation engineer. These are all the types of jobs that will be utilizing all of your Linux stuff, right? You can go look at help desk work that involve Linux. You can type in help desk, Linux automation, but I think that's not just your intro stuff. I think that's probably like a level two somewhere in there when you start getting into that. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But that's how I would look it up. I would go look at the RCE. Let's go look at the exam. Uh, but the Frank, you don't have to do this boring stuff. It's not boring to me. The boring stuff is what get paid. If you don't know that though, the more boring the job, the more money you get paid. I'm just saying. The more boring the job, the more you get paid. That's just what I've seen. RACE exam objectives. All right, so here we go. Let's blow it up here. Oopsie. All right, RCE is an exam candidate. To be able to perform tasks, understand essential tools, operate running systems, configure local storage, create, configure file systems, deploy, configure, and maintain systems, manage users and groups, manage security, inventory, modules, variables, facts, loops, conditional tasks. Talked about loops, plays, handling task failure, playbooks, configuration files, and roles. Create and work with roles. And I guess I'll run through all these next week. I think I'll make a 5 hour exam, 5 hour class on every last one of these. Install required packages, create a static inventory file, create a configuration file, create a static inventory to define groups and hosts, When you start doing this distributed, you'll get that. So to be honest, the damn CEOs and board executives should be the first ones out the door with the layouts, but they're not, as the little guys being affected, which is horrible, right? Tech is getting hard to get into now. Lots of layoffs with these well, if you go, it's not hard to get into if you go government. They're still hiring. So I mean, that's just my thoughts. So here, create and distribute SSH keys. Keyword there, the SSH pass, to help you distribute those keys as well too, in case you don't have access to the system. Privilege escalation, deploy and manage nodes, be able to analyze simple shell scripts and convert them into playbooks, like literally take a bash script and convert it into a playbook. Run playbooks with automation content navigator. Know how to run playbooks with automation content navigator. Use automation content navigator to find new modules available in Ansible content collections. You're gonna need to understand that. Use content navigator to create inventory, right? Create playbooks, plays and playbooks, and then understand all of your CSA tasks. All the things you had to do, user groups, firewall, system storage, file content, archiving, you should be able to do that in an Ansible playbook. And then manage content, create and use templates to create customized configurations, and then use Ansible Vault in order to do that. You can literally go through the Ansible class. I say in 2 days. I'll push it out to a week if you want to study, and you should be able to take that exam within. If you study and push and do it every day for 2 weeks, you should be ready to take the exam. That's my personal thoughts on it. It's the class isn't very hard, but that's just my personal thoughts on that, right? So after the RHCSA, which is broken up into two classes, then you got the RHCE, and that's a total of 3 classes. That's three classes with individual skill sets that are learned in each that will get you to where you need to be to start out with. Once you get there, once you get the Ansible stuff, if you go in government, go get your Security Plus. Once you get your Security Plus, then you're on your way to a job. Once you get a job, you're on your way. Like I think that the first year is pretty much laid out. Within that, and this is what people miss out on. When you study Ansible, you learn, when you study Linux, you learn these skill sets, right? I'm gonna get rid of this here, and I'm gonna talk about what skill sets you learn. One, you learn firewalls, you learn networking, you learn about security, you learn about SE Linux, you learn about storage, you learn about least privilege, you learn about you also learn about managing servers. You also learn about KVM, or I should say virtualization. You also learn about um, firewalls, networking, security, SE Linux, least privilege, storage. Oh, you learn about file systems, the boot process, the kernel, and you learn about operating systems. These are fundamentals that every person should have inside of their bag. Oh yeah, I forgot about the containers. This is just your basic fundamentals. And if you're not sitting down learning, if you get up and walk away from taking that class or walking through stuff and you don't learn these things, and I think these, and I say these things, these concepts, And these are concepts that you should know very, very well. You should be able to move through tech fairly easy. These are fundamental concepts that you should have. You can skip the RHCSA and go to the RHCE, but you still got to go back and take the RHCSA. You still have to get it. Right? These are fundamentals. Another fundamentals that everyone should have, you should just know what least privilege is security wise. You should just know that. Oh, my other thing you're going to learn, web servers and DNS. Just in Kubernetes, you got web servers. You got applications with API, REST API endpoints. You got DNS. You got load balancers. You got networking. You got virtualization. You got containers. You got storage. It's the same principles and fundamentals that you're going to have in Kubernetes. So you go take the Kubernetes exam and you don't understand storage and how storage works, then of course you're gonna be off. If you don't understand how DNS works, of course you're gonna be off. If you don't understand load balancers, of course you're gonna be off. You don't understand DNS, of course you're gonna be off. These are the fundamentals that you're gonna get out of Linux. Take those fundamentals and run with it. Now you take those fundamentals and you keep adding skill sets to them, and then you'll start breaking these up, right? And this is my last hoorah. This is my last man rant. You'll start breaking this up because firewalls can be, if you start getting into advanced firewalls, you can start learning Palo Alto. Is it Palo Alto or Cisco? And same here. It could be, that could be the same thing here. That could ditto. I'll just put ditto there. And then security is vast, but I was really saying securing of like ports and networking. So it could be, that could still be ditto there, and then that could be users, that could be DNS, that could be networking. Then SE Linux covers all of those things. Storage, it could be NFS, it could be CIFS. It could be it could be AutoFS. Least privilege, you just should know what that means. Managing servers, now we're saying, okay, well, we got Cockpit, but what if I want to manage the server from not just a Cockpit perspective, but another perspective? Like I want to manage a cluster of servers. Like, how do I manage a cluster of servers? KVM, you're gonna just start doing that, right? We start doing virtualization, file systems, EST2, 3, 4, XFS, the whole nine, right? You're just gonna start knowing those things. And so once you start getting to know those things at a, oh yeah, I forgot LVM. And then once you start getting to know those things at a basic, I'll put this up here with storage. I'll put it up storage. Once you start knowing these things at a basic, you'll just be like, oh man, why didn't I go down this route first? Your help desk work will be, if you're a help desk Linux admin or sysadmin, this will be your path. And then you'll start getting and adding onto it. And last but not least, let me just add VMware, because I just think VMware is just one of them things. And then I'll just add Kubernetes. This is your life, right? Now we get advanced. Let's see how much time I got left. I'm over. When we get advanced, when we start looking at managing Kubernetes clusters, scaling clusters, that's when we get advanced. And load balancers, and then traffic. We get advanced when we start doing that. But this is your life. You should be able to talk about all these in an interview. Every last one of them in detail. In detail. That's an expectation I would have for you. Yes, SE Linux is tied to security and firewalls. Yep, all of that. That's why I say I kind of like SE Linux, like right there, like it's the mother load of everything. All right, D, we're done. Oh, you're not coming back up. All right, y'all. I just wanted y'all to have that. Uh, SE Linux, security, RCE, Red Hat. I'll get the JQ stuff down for next week. So we have that, and we'll go from there. Um, there's a slew of stuff to learn. Don't be overwhelmed with learning, but get the basics down first before y'all like go off the deep end and be like, I am gonna be a cybersecurity engineer. Start with Linux. Start with Kali Linux. That's your friend. These are fundamentals. Right? Anything you want to add, D, before we go?
No, I think you did a very good job of covering all of it. Very
Man,
comprehensive. Let
man,
us
had a good
know if
night.
you guys want. I think you said you were going to do a 5-hour session about
Hmm.
it.
Yeah,
We'll keep you posted about when that's going to be. So
yeah, yeah.
it's
We'll do
pretty
a
good.
5 hour session.
I can tell people who's been studying in the chat or who's already working in the field, which is exciting. I was proud
And I messed up on
to
my
see what's
ad
going
hoc
on.
command.
You'll be all right. You'll live.
I messed up on my ad hoc command. And
You'll
my
live.
and my JQ. I
But
won't
it's
live.
it's it's the nature of the beast. Like you can't have it all. I
I
mean,
can. I'm supposed. That's supposed to roll off. Rat a
but
tat tat,
hey,
and all the cops
the
scatter.
amount you retain is very impressive. Don't beat yourself up over there, old girl.
Let's see, Jerome. You say Meta is showing me how often they use Linux to break fix tools for hardware repairs. They don't use Linux for system admin, like how we discussed. Yep. Heather, uh I got architect stuff to do now. Like I gotta go design stuff now. I gotta go
Yeah, don't worry about the little stuff. Don't worry about the
I
little
gotta
things.
go
You be all right.
design
Big
stuff.
vision.
Yeah, everybody, most people over there use open source tools. Ansible isn't open source, but I'll do one with Ansible and Crossplane. I'm gonna do a show on Crossplane where Crossplane needs a Kubernetes cluster to deploy, but I'm gonna probably build out a Kubernetes cluster using Ansible and using Crossplane, and have Crossplane install and then Crossplane to deploy a multitude of workload clusters for me. So I'm gonna build that out. I'm probably gonna do a show on that. I may have to pre-record that so I can chop it up, so I can talk through the concepts of it and go from there. So that's coming down the pipe. Like I say, I got a I got 10 I probably got about 10 to 15 hours of content that I need to record for some shows. So that's coming out. Okay, same for the Figure the Heart. But imagine you got to manage 40 different workloads, or you got to manage 100 workloads, or you got to manage 1,000 workloads, right? Imagine you got one machine learning model may spin up 1,000 workload clusters, right? It depends on what that model is and what they're doing. So, mm, yeah, imagine that, right? So these are the things designing for, but you're going to build up to that. I want to talk about more about solution architect and so forth, so on. All right, all right, but we're out. I gotta eat.
What you having?
I have no idea.
Hmm.
All right, y'all. It's been real. See you later.